Hari Hari Bo. And I'm going to depend upon the really good Sanskrit chanters to chant the verse for me. Hari Bo. I'm asking if you can chant for me. I'm getting better at it, but not as good as he is.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम स्कंद 6 अध्याय 12। अध्याय का नाम है वृत्रासुर की यशस्वी मृत्यु। श्लोक संख्या 21। खल्विदं महदाश्चर्यं यन्द्रजः प्रकृतेस्तव वासुदेवे भगवती सत्त्वात्मने दृढामतिः। खल्विदं महदाश्चर्यं यन्द्रजः प्रकृतेस्तव वासुदेवे भगवती सत्त्वात्मनि दृढामतिः। खल्विदं महदाश्चर्यं यन्द्रजः प्रकृतेस्तव वासुदेवे भगवती सत्त्वात्मनि दृढामतिः। बोलिए।
Sattvatmani Dridhamati. Kalvidam Mahadaschayam Yadraja Prakritestava Vasudeve Bhagavati Sattvatmani Dridhamati. Kalvidam Mahadaschayam Yadraja Prakritestava Vasudeve Bhagavati Sattvatmani Dridhamati.
वैष्णव देवी
Kalvidam Mahadaschayam Yadraja Prakritestava Vasudeve Bhagavati Sattvatmani Dridhamati.
शब्दार्थ बोलिए। खलु निस्संदेह इदम यह महत् आश्चर्यम महान आश्चर्य यत जो रजः रजोगुण से प्रभावित प्रकृति है जिसका स्वभाव तब तुम्हारा वासुदेवे भगवान श्री कृष्ण में भगवती पूर्ण पुरुषोत्तम भगवान सत्व आत्मनि शुद्ध सतो गुण में स्थित दृढ़ मति ही चेतना। अनुवाद मेरे पीछे बोलिए। हे वृत्रासुर असुर सामान्यतः रजोगुणी होते हैं, अतः ये कितना महान आश्चर्य है। कहा जाएगा कि असुर होकर भी तुमने भक्त भाव ग्रहण करके अपने मन को पूर्ण पुरुषोत्तम भगवान वासुदेव में स्थिर कर दिया है, जो सदैव शुद्ध सत्व में स्थित रहते हैं। तात्पर्य प्रभुपाद के द्वारा। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। राजा इंद्र को विस्मय हो रहा था कि वृत्रासुर किस तरह महान भक्त के पद तक उठ सका। जहाँ तक प्रहलाद महाराज की बात है, वे नारद मुनि द्वारा दीक्षित थे, अतः वे असुर वंश में जन्म लेकर भी परम भक्त हो सकते थे। किंतु वृत्रासुर के विषय में इंद्र को कोई ऐसा कारण दृष्टिगोचर नहीं हुआ। इसलिए उसे आश्चर्य हुआ कि वृत्रासुर ऐसा उच्च भक्त था कि वह भगवान श्री कृष्ण वासुदेव के चरण कमलों में अपने मन को अविचलित भाव से स्थिर कर सका।
Hare Krishna. First, I would like to thank you for welcoming me and honoring me so much. It makes me understand how much you appreciate Srila Prabhupada. And you still remember and honor and worship him, and so grandly, I might add, so beautifully. So the verses, I find the verses about the demons, probably because I'm such a young, old person, meaning I think kids really like demons. So I'm a child at heart, and for some reason demons are they're always exciting. There's always something far out about demons, And in the Puranic epics, it's always so amazing because they turn out to be great devotees. And they're teaching us something so special. And even Indra and his situation here where, if we could avoid Guru Aparada, it would be really good, because just see the havoc it creates and difficulty it brings about. And even Vṛtrāsura himself, he had the problem of making fun of Lord Shiva. So, in his previous life as Chitraketu, so even though he appeared to be this giant, huge demon, it's not the whole story. It's not the entire story. And each and every single one of us, we have many, many births, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. He says, you have been born many times. I know all of your births, and you don't. And we don't know any of the other births of anyone else either. We don't know what amazing things that maybe a devotee has done in a previous life to come to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, or come to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Lakshmi Nrsimha, to have gotten the blessing. Somebody was just reminding me today how fortunate I am to be able to have a place in Vrindavan and spend so much. I've spent a lot of time in Vrindavan. Lately I've had a service in Hawaii for the past 7.5 years, managing the temple there. And it's Vṛtrāsura, his backstory, it speaks to this verse. How is it that he's got this giant, scary, terrible, very horrible form? He's a terrifying devotee that's swallowing up all the weapons of everyone. They're fainting at the sight of him. If he just makes a roar, then they just pass out. How is it that he has all this power? How is it? And it doesn't look like goodness at all, but he's actually a great devotee who's willing to do Atma Nivedanam, give everything to Krishna. So our philosophy, Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneous one indifference, it resolves this, because simultaneously he is so different as a complete demon, but he's incredibly the same because he's pure Krishna bhakti through and through. He pities Indra. He pities him. You fool. You got the consolation prize. You get to be the king of heaven. Oh, I really pity you. What a dreadful fate. And that is the frightening part of chanting Hare Krishna offensively. Because if we chant the holy name of the Lord offensively, practice our devotional service offensively, we have some envy in our heart towards other devotees, then we could very well end up in some opulent situation. Like the one dog that was getting kicked, continuously kicked, the pujari would come out and kick him. And one day Narada Muni said, "Why do you let this happen?" He said, "I don't know, he just comes out and kicks me." And he said, "Well, I'd like you to tell me what you think should happen to this rascal fellow for kicking you every day like this." And he thought about it and he said, "I think he should become temple president." And Narada Muni said, "Acha, why?" He said, "I was temple president in my previous life." So you don't know. You can be dog, you can be temple president, you can be King Indra. It doesn't matter. We have to lose the offensive mentality. You can have so much opulence. It doesn't help. And we have to be careful about that. We all have to be careful about that, to become proud. And here, Vṛtrāsura's he also, as Chitraketu was coming by, and he was wanting to practice some austerities in the forest. He was a saintly person, quite elevated. And he was going to hear some discourses, and Lord Shiva was lecturing on vairagya, on renunciation. And he had Parvati on his lap. And so he made some offhanded kind of joking remarks. And so sometime you may see fault in a devotee. You may not understand the whole picture. You may not understand. And even ourselves, because we're Vaishnavas, sometimes we don't have even the proper attitude towards Lord Shiva. And we have to be extremely careful about that. We've just been reading 4th Canto in Hawaii. Our Srimad Bhagavatam classes are on 4th Canto. And because, sometimes as Vaishnavas, we kind of think we know everything. If you know Krishna, you know everything. And it's true, if you know Krishna, you do know everything. But at the same time, you need to understand his Sevites. Also, das, anu, das. And Vṛtrāsura is in this situation where he's been created by his father, Tatasva, who is pretty angry about having lost his other son. He's furious and he's looking for some revenge. It's not working out very well. Revenge never does, actually. It's kind of a boomerang. If we try to make some revenge or some politics or some kind of creepy thing, it always comes back to bite us. Look in the scriptures, you'll find countless examples of somebody playing some politics and it comes back to hurt not just us, so many people. So we have to see the beauty. And here, saying, how have you arrived at this pure goodness? And Vṛtrāsura is preaching to Indra. He's preaching hard to Indra. Kill me already. I'm tired of this. Like, finish me now. Finish me now. He's born to die. And if you look at the situation here, Dadachi is also, he's performed so much austerity. He's got so much power. He could do whatever he wanted. But the Lord, having sided with the administration, the demigod administration, even though Indra's messed up a lot of times, he keeps messing up over and over. He didn't properly respect his own Guru Maharaj, and he lost the entire heavenly kingdom because of it. He was totally deposed. And now he's getting a second chance with Vṛtrāsura, and what does he do? He chops off not Vṛtrāsura, but his brother, and he chops off his head. And he gave him the Narayana Kavacha. He gave him everything. When you're selfless and you're willing to give everything, just like Srila Prabhupada, he was willing to give us everything. He was willing, if we take birth again, he's going to come back and get us. When I think about the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and then how we need to follow in his footsteps and learn that same mercy, be that generous. We need to be that generous that we may see a fault in another, which Vṛtrāsura is learning a deadly lesson about it. It's like you might get a huge giant demon body and then you get to eat weapons for breakfast. And it's not exactly what you know, you could even be joking, but Parvati got upset. Lord Shiva didn't even mind. She didn't bother him at all. He might have thought, yeah, it's probably a good idea, but for him, he was with his own intimate followers and associates. There was no difficulty. But we ourselves need to learn something for ourselves. This isn't just something that happened to other people. This is something that is involving us and how we relate to one another, and how when our mind does the little, like there's the demon talking or the devotee talking, there has to be a war, and we have to preach to ourselves about the Maya that we find ourselves in before we let something out of our mouth, because we're responsible for our words. And we may have some negative thoughts going on in our mind, but not to be cavalier and joke about it. Something said in jest, Janaka Pandit said, is half true. We meant it halfway. We're making a joke. Chitraketu made a joke. Ha ha. Very funny. For that, this is happening. All this is happening. So how important are our words today? Can we, I know for me, I'm in administration now, so generally at Purushottam Mas, I'll take a vrat of not criticizing anybody. It's hard. And as an administrator, it's really difficult because you have to try to correct people to do better, teach them how to do things. Like even when you're making the ghee wicks, you groom them a little so that they're pointed and there's not too much ghee on the end so it lights easily. But people don't often take instruction. But if you've been doing something for 55 years, you kind of know how to make a ghee wick, and groom it so that it's easy to light. People just blop it in the ghee, put it on the thing, and it's just this giant thing, and it takes 1,000,000 years to light. But somebody who's been doing it a long time, they know the finesse of something so like, aha, make it easier for the pujari. So when a person corrects you, don't go into that, this is like, they might actually be telling you something because of years of experience that they've learned, like to set the artik tray up in the order of how it's offered so that it's easier. Think about it. We have to be conscious how the pujari is going to grab the articles from the tray. Make it easier for the pujaris. And after years of service, the devotees know how to do it the most efficiently. Take instruction. And when somebody who's been around a long time offers instruction, don't just shrug it off. Because I tell you, now it's very much like that. They shrug it off. But when an administrator, somebody who's been a devotee a long time finds someone who wants to learn, they will teach you everything. You will be fast-tracked. You will get the download because they can. They find a willing, eager candidate to learn. Wow, an amazing concept. Let us all become eager candidates to learn from the seniors because they know a lot. Didichi knew so much that he was willing to give up his body as a weapon. Why? Because the Lord had a plan. He had a multi-pronged plan. Yes, you get to come to me real soon, all your austerities, like it says here, all these austerities you're doing, better you die immediately. better you die immediately and come back to me. And he was willing to do Atmanivedanam. Sure, take my bones. Make the weapon that will kill and create much more peace and harmony in the situation. This is war, guys. It's war on Maya. When the generals say do something, do it. It's danger at every step. They know better than you. Don't be like, whatever. I'm sleepy. No, pay attention. We have declared war on Maya. This is a devotee army. And this is a Sankirtan army to defeat the material sense gratification and devote ourselves to Krishna. This is Bhagavad Gita. Life is it's like an epic war on Maya. And it is meant to give everything in this material world, spiritualize it by offering it to Krishna. It's no longer matter. We are transferring the account from mundane, Mayic, sense gratification to Krishna's seva, the pleasure of Krishna. And as devotees, as souls, we are incredibly ecstatic. So Dadichi's ready to give everything up. Vṛtrāsura is ready to give everything up. And Krishna's on Indra's side because he's got the hard job, even though he offended 2 gurus. He's got a hard job. He's got a rough situation. Being in administration isn't easy. It isn't easy. For the most part, Indra is doing his very best, and he does a lot of service, and he's keeping everything in order. Of course, that wasn't Hiranyakashipu's attitude. He said, what do you do? It's all going on automatically anyway. And actually, there is a part of that that's true. There is a part of it that's true. But because, just like Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, it's going to happen by my sweet will. Take the credit. Show up. So each and every single one of us have to show up with an attitude of gratitude and say, it's a good day to learn something from my superiors. It's a good day to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Each and every one of us has an opportunity each and every day, each and every second, to find some senior devotee to learn from. And this whole episode has so much to do with Vandanam, Atmanivedanam and Bandhanam. Vandanam. Either it's Vandanam or Bandhanam, whatever, it's either or. We can be bound or we can be in a prayerful mood to Krishna 24/7. I know I don't get in the kitchen too much, but every once in a while there'll be a big feast. And so all of a sudden I'm in the kitchen making a big preparation. And I stay in a major state of prayer because I'm not in the kitchen that often, so I really don't know what I'm doing. And as an administrator, sometimes you just go into any emergency situation and handle it, whatever it is, and you go into intense prayer over it, like, okay, Lord, help me out. I need you to carry what I lack. I'm here, and I'm going to do whatever you need me to do. And it's amazing, and when you're staying in that prayerful space, how it works out beautifully. We just had that. The Pujari quit the day before, the eve of Janmashtami. And I was like, yay, I get to dress the deities. I was so ecstatic. I was wishing I had a little bit of advance notice so I could prepare a few extra special things, but I got the opportunity to dress. We're in a situation where whatever is needed, we just jump in and do that. And boy, prayer is the place. It's a safe place to be because miracles happen. From the state of prayer, when you're offering prayer, like Vṛtrāsura's, he's just saying, glories of Lord, and pitting in Indra and saying, hurry up, kill me already, like take that. I already know Dadachi's bones are there. I already know I'm going to die. What are you waiting for? And Indra is like, I don't even know if I can kill this guy. He's great devotee. He's astounded. Ascharya, it means astounded, like mind blown. I'm faced with killing a great devotee. This is the situation that I'm in. But it's also, again, the Lord has said, this is what, I'm on your side, you're taking this weapon, this is how we're going to handle the situation. So it's like, just like the battlefield of Kurukshetra again. He's getting a little confused here. Oh, I'm listening to this beautiful, it's almost like I'm listening to Bhagavad sloks. Actually, he's listening to Bhagavad sloks. Vṛtrāsura is praying beautiful prayers. And Gajendra, he was praying beautiful prayers. And usually we pray really beautiful prayers when we're in distress. Oh my goodness. So being in distress is not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually impetus to beautiful prayers. If you're willing to just jump into any emergency situation, do the needful for Krishna, you can stay in a state of prayer. You can be fully raging on seva today, staying in a state of intense prayer. Or not. But as devotees, that's what we prefer. We prefer to stay in this state of prayer, in this Krishna conscious place where we are surrendering every second. And we know, like Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. We're asked to do things we've never done before. He was just telling me that you're 50 years since the installation of your Gaur-Nitai deities, Radha Parasarthi. So that's beautiful, wonderful. We just passed last year our 50th anniversary where Prabhupada installed our Panchatattva deities in Hawaii. And that was an amazing thing because none of us knew what we were doing, but somehow we made deities. And I've never carved a deity before or since, but I did do the original Lord Chaitanya for the Hawaii temple, the original clay. And I had no talent, but all of a sudden you're called to do a service. And impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And there we were taught, the artists were taught, you bow down and you beg for the Lord to appear. You don't have ability. The Lord will appear at his own sweet will. The ability comes from the Lord. So we would bow down and beg, please Lord, and somebody was reading about Lord Chaitanya the whole time I was doing the sculpting, so that I was in the mood of knowing about Lord Chaitanya, and someone was modeling, how I should be doing. And Lord Chaitanya came out of the form only by the prayer and the intensity and the confluence of many devotees coming together. And so you see here, the Lord has a plan, and he's a super soul, and he's in and out, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Paramatma, Brahman, he's everywhere. And how easy it is to stay connected through his devotees, to staying in the association of devotees and following the instructions of the authorities who have a plan for service and expanded preaching. And once you get really into it, you can be part of the planning too of how to expand Krishna consciousness. And having enthusiasm is very, very important. Vṛtrāsura had a lot of enthusiasm. He was even enthusiastic to provoke Indra. He was kind of poking him like, come on already. But he also had a little experience where didn't really work out that well with Parvati. You have to be careful with in the opposite sex situation, men and women. Prabhupada said, better we stay somewhat separately. It's in this world today, it's harder for the men and women to stay separately. But I would like to suggest it's actually for the ladies, it equals the playing field to be working with ladies. Because men, they can be enthusiastic to outdo each other. and women can do better and better amongst themselves. It's actually kind of a good camaraderie when, this is a mundane example, but we used to play volleyball, and this is before I was a devotee, and that if I played with the men, I just get out of their way because they would just mow me over. But if I played with the ladies, I played hard, I got the ball, I set it up to the other people, because we were all equal. And so it was much more fun to do it with my ladies, to play with the ladies, to get into Krishna consciousness with the ladies. So this division is helpful. It's not like, oh my goodness, we just have to be one giant, modern mass. No, the division of it creates order, and it brings out the best in people. Because they can be the best they can be. They don't have to depend on somebody to be better than them. Oh, they're better, I'm not going to try. No. Together, we do it together. We do it together. So I don't even know how I got into the division thing, but all of these things, there's order to the universe. There's order to the universe. And in the Bhagavad, you see, sometimes a person's a devotee, sometimes they're a demon. Sometimes, I know when I was a child, we used to play cops and robbers. And it was way more fun to be the robber. Way more fun. So in the Leela of Krishna, in his Vedic lore, sometimes you give over everything to the Leela. You will actually know, I'm going to die. That's okay. I want to. Because for a devotee, dying is glorious. There's nothing terrible about dying. It's a wonderful thing because we're not these bodies. Who cares for them? Anyway, we just do what we need to do to stay in this body, enough to stay here to do service another day. But if our service is so great that we're being asked to sacrifice our very self, would you do that? Ask yourself, if you were asked by Krishna to line up and fight, would you do that? Could you do that? Fight for the sake of fighting? Be in Arjuna's position? Be in Dadichi's position? Would you sacrifice everything for Krishna today? At least 8 hours. Certain number of hours, give over to Krishna today with your heart and soul, like you mean it, with every ounce of your being. Try to do a certain amount. Take a vow. Take a vow. Take a vow not to criticize your godbrothers and godsisters. Take a vow to curb envy. Take a vow to find something good about everyone, something wonderful about everyone. In service of Krishna, they're Krishna's after all. Is this not part of glorifying Krishna? If you are Krishna's devotee, if I'm saying I am Krishna's bhakta, is not like I've got all these beautiful garlands, isn't it wonderful? I'm taking this as the mercy of Prabhupada and the glory of my guru. So for the glory of Krishna and the glory of your guru, look to see in every person something special. Even if they're and try it on the people you like the least. The ones you're like, oh, they're demons anyway. They may not be. They may be your special Vṛtrāsura. They may be a hero. He's a hero. He's a Bhagavad hero. These are heroes here. And they're teaching us how to think, how to pray, how to exist, how to not want to become the king of heaven or the Lord and master of our little tiny fiefdom that we think we want to rule. No, this will not make us happy. As soon as we get one thing satisfied, the next thing, we want something else. There's no end to the desires. So one thing Vrindavan has taught me is it's easier to give up a desire than it is to satisfy it. It's just like the same story about the Brahmin who was going to take bath in the river every day, and somebody was stealing his loincloth. And then he thought, oh, I need to get some dog to protect my loincloth. And then the dog needed food, so he needed to figure out, oh boy, well, maybe I could feed him some milk. I'll get a cow. It just goes on like this. And he said, well, now what I do, I have to take care of the cow. I'm going to require a place some grass, I should probably get a wife. Oh, eventually he just said, I think I should just go naked. Because the complexities of life are never, ever ending. We need a certain basic things to satisfy, to keep our body, mind, and spirit together, to be healthy. That we need, our necessities we need. But if we can understand that no amount of fancy this or that will actually fulfill us, in fact, it'll feed our ego, the demon part of us. That is the demon part, the ahamkara. That is the pratista. I am this big person. This is a trap. It's a trap. Indra made mistakes. He even challenged Krishna. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Krishna forgave him. Krishna forgives. He's so merciful. Guru forgives. Let us forgive. Let us learn to forgive like they do. Are there any questions or comments? Yes. This fellow here.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you very much for
Hare Krishna.
making us think a lot more than we normally do. My question is, it's with the attitude of gratitude and the importance of forgiving are all something that we always yearn for or covet to include in our lives. But one of the things that bothers, I don't know if others, but at least in my case, that it's very easy to forgive, but it's very difficult to forget. So how do we get that out of the system? Forgiving is fine, saying, okay, we give benefit of doubt or whatever, but somehow the pain or the angst or the irritation just stays behind. So how do we sort of unearth that and throw it out?
It takes that, there's a few aspects to that. One is that time heals all wounds, but secondly is there's always something to learn. And if we make lemonade from the lemon, and we try to understand what is it that Krishna is trying to teach me through this person. Or we philosophically sum it up by preaching to ourselves, wow, did I just burn a lot of karma? Isn't that great? There's so many ways to look at this situation and to continue to analyze it so that we're not just stuck in bitterness. To be stuck in bitterness is only self-defeat and misidentification with the false ego. Self-defeat and misidentification with something that is not us at all isn't going to help us learn. So we have to understand, what is Krishna trying to teach me today through this person? Peter Burwash always says, Prabhupada told him, do not criticize the instrument of your karma. So if we see that Krishna's coming to teach me something through this person, and they are the instrument of my karma, what can I learn? How can I be grateful for this situation? Because there really is something there. We shouldn't waste it. We should take it as an opportunity, and it makes stumbling blocks into stepping stones. Yes. Hare Krishna. Wait.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji,
Jai Hare
for
Krishna.
excellent class, and
Hare Krishna.
you addressed many points like gratitude, and then are you ready to sacrifice 8 hours? That was very nice. Like Mataji, like there is a two thing. One is philosophy, and then one is a consciousness. As we were discussing, the translation was he was in demon's body, but his consciousness was devotee.
Totally devoted.
So the point is that now it's okay but when we get into the services, or as you said that you are in ministry, you need to face many things. Sometimes you have to be harsh. Sometimes, well, for others it will be harsh. So that time to apply philosophy or to get into that consciousness of a devotee, how to deal with it. Sometimes we get into the modes, and then so my point is that how to cultivate that mood of all this demigod qualities, that is gratitude, forgiveness.
Well, the 16 rounds really helps for starts. When you chant your rounds, I noticed that for the first 12, maybe 10, I'm doing like the to-do list. My mind is busy running through yesterday and what I need to do today. Even though I'm chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, I'm clearing, I'm running through. So as you're chanting, just by the chanting, the pure chanting of Hare Krishna, we go through a process on a regular basis. One of the things that you could add, and Prabhupada asked us to do, and I found to be extremely helpful to myself, is journaling. I would write a letter to Prabhupada. I may not send it, but I write a letter to Srila Prabhupada. If something's really bothering me, I write. And sometimes I really like what I've written, and it gets it off your chest and out on the paper. You've just communicated it, and you've put it outside of yourself, and then you look at it. And in journaling, there's some dialogue that you're having with your own self. You're beginning a dialogue where you're not stuck anymore. You're moving energy. You're literally moving energy. Prabhupada said, write, practice writing. And I would write to Prabhupada. By the end of the letter, everything would be resolved, because he would reveal something. Chaitya Guru, the Lord in the heart, Srila Prabhupada's preaching, would reveal something to me. And so usually it's just like if you would go visit Prabhupada with a problem, you'd sit down, and when he'd say, how can I help you? Is there any difficulty? You would not know what to say, because just by being in his presence, it's like, I have no problems. My life is great. So move the energy. Chant. It tenderizes you, gives realization. And then dialoguing, the reading, the philosophy, preach to yourself.
Thank you.
Preaching starts at home. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. There's a lot of homework for today's class, and I need to work a lot. I wanted...
Speak
Thank
louder.
you, Mataji. There's a lot of homework for today's class, lot to work on myself. And I'm into youth preaching, and I wanted to know, like, sometimes there are two devotees, there's some clash between them. Both are dear because we are cultivating them. But one comes, you understand my problem, I'm right, he says I'm right. And very difficult, if we take someone's side, then the other will become upset with us. So in such situations, how we should manage, and both grows and they understand their mistake and they move ahead in devotion.
I've had success in listening, and then after hearing for some time, asking them, if you had to do it all over again, how would you do it better? Because there's something that each and every single one of us could improve upon. And particularly when there is a clash, there usually is a way that we might do it a little better the next time. And so when you talk to each side, you don't necessarily, you understand where they're coming from because there's a valid complaint and there's a valid problem that erupted that needs to be mediated. And after hearing everything, you can understand more clearly, but you ask each one of them, what could you do better? Because both sides could do better. And in that, you can have them come together to talk about what they could do better. And an apology can come from both sides naturally. Because there's something to getting forgiven and giving forgiveness on both sides. Both sides. And it's not taking a side, there's two sides. You have to take both sides. Krishna takes both sides. Just see in the story, the demon is preaching. The king of heaven is supported by Krishna. He's taking him, Vṛtrāsura, back to Godhead. He's getting the real mercy here. So we have to become like, understand that there's something really beautiful in the coming together, the confluence. That's why we take bath at the Trivedi. That's why Kumbh Mela is there, where there's a confluence, where there's a congregation. And wherever that happens, there's some roughness. You know, there's something that's going to give. And that's going to be there. That'll always be there. But it's meant for our growth. And if the first thing we can ask, would you be willing to grow through this? Do a little to sacrifice to make this better. Usually devotees would easily agree to that.
And thank you, Mataji. And also, like, although I may know that it is my mistake, but I don't wish to, ask forgiveness, or that something holds ego or sense. How to get over this thing, like, because they both know that what is right and wrong. They're intelligent, but still they
Go
want
on Govardhan Parikrama. Do some hard work for Krishna. Just do something to move your energy. When you're that distressed, you have to do something harder to get over it. Do something more intense. You have to blast through it. Unless you want to stay, although there are times that I would say, oh, let me stew in my venom. I really want to stew in my venom. I'm stewing in my own venom, for God's sake, and I know it. I know it. But I need it. I'm using it for some reason. So we have to understand and give that person some time. You can't just force it. Only we can force it. We can try to encourage. We can get stuck, but we want to encourage devotees not to stay stuck. But when we're very upset, usually doing something very like Govardhan Parikrama will really help. Really help. Hare Krishna. It's usually the solution to almost everything, or 64 rounds. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavats, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, O Sanskrit Maharaj. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. What is his name? Jitamrita Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'm really very thankful for your lecture. It intensified my, I can say, faith for the devotion. Actually, I was losing faith because I thought I cannot do it. And you intensified it, but now I'm thinking even more how to intensify it more, because sometimes when situations come which distress us and we think we cannot become a devotee, being a devotee is very hard. Becoming a devotee is very, very hard. And when in your lecture, it was really like giving a lot of lessons for me to move, and it was really helpful. But my question is, you were saying about the vows, take vows and work on it. But it's actually the case with me. I take vows, but I just don't do it that intensifyingly. That as today's lecture was intensifying, I'm really very diluted in that. So how to intensify the vow that I have taken every day, because it dilutes it day by day, day by day.
Take a vow for a certain period of time, like Purushottam Mas or Kartik Vrat, do something for a particular period of time, because our daily life is kind of intense. There are certain vows like 16 rounds following 4 regulative principles we take, and we adhere to them, as Prabhupada puts it, rigidly. That's important to do that rigidly. But if we do these little vrats like that, it builds character and stamina if you can, but you just give yourself a certain period of time for it, so you don't have to beat yourself up. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, like for Purushottam Mas, you have a month, and you take a vow to do something specific, and you do it for the month. But you're not saying, okay, I'm going to do this forever. Unless, of course, there's one vow I took that I've been doing that really works well for me, is I don't beat myself up anymore inside of me, because Krishna's witnessing it. I don't let myself talk to myself harshly. I used to. That vow I've taken very seriously, and I've managed to, it took about 2 months of arguing to get it into a good habit of not speaking harshly to myself, because Krishna's my witness. Why would I wouldn't let anybody hear the way I talk to myself, ever. And I'm letting Krishna hear the way I'm speaking to myself? Oh no, Once I became a devotee for a certain period of time, I said, oh boy. And so I took that vow, and it's taken some time, but I've taken that as another vow. So do it for short periods to make it easier for yourself. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Yes, Hare Krishna. Is there a microphone?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
You gave a very wonderful class. Mataji, you mentioned a few points like, for example, in whatever we possess, so we should have only that much that is required for maintenance of the body. But in case, like by God's mercy, if we have more, so like should we just give it all up, or should engage everything in service of the Lord? Like what should be the right attitude, like in a long term? Because sometimes we too get attached to things, and then our false ego just boosts up. But other way around, if we see when we leave things, then we always think of, if I had those things, I should utilize in service of the Lord.
You should use everything. Real renunciation, real vairagya is to actually utilize everything in Krishna's seva. Everything in Krishna's seva. Prabhupada said, you can bring me millions of dollars and I will engage immediately in Krishna's service. He was not artificially renounced. He was not artificially renounced, but everything, even belladonna and arsenic, can be used in Krishna seva. Even stool can be used for fertilizer. Everything we can understand that everything has a use in Krishna service. If it has no use, then get rid of it. That can be renounced. but everything has a use. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you mentioned that we should learn to be generous like Srila Prabhupada in distributing mercy to everyone without seeing one's faults. So we can see that Prabhupada was very merciful, even though he was always in connection with Krishna. But in my case, let's say I have material consciousness. So if someone behaves as per my expectations, then I am merciful. But if he is not behaving as per my expectations, then it's very hard to be merciful. And whenever he comes, so same programming goes on, same thought process. So how to cultivate this merciful attitude irrespective of someone's faults?
Well, a few things. Prabhupada said it takes gallons of blood to make a new devotee. Gallons of blood. And one has to understand that when a new person comes and they don't know anything and you're having to, I don't know if you're talking about new people or old people, but finding fault, generally speaking, like there's a saying that when you find some fault and it really bothers you, there's something in you, there's three fingers going back, one going forward. So if it really bothers you, like they'll say, and when my father quit smoking, he couldn't be around smokers. It was like a federal offense. He would get super disturbed if anybody was smoking. And it's because he might have still been attached. There was some attachment to that. So if something really, really bothers you, some fault in another, you have to examine. This is a process of self-realization, to realize the self. By the chanting, the mirror of the mind gets clarified. You can see yourself clearly, that I am full of faults. Somehow or other, we're going forward in Krishna consciousness with these anarthas, these unwanted things. And we have to understand gradually we will become purified. If we engage our body, mind, and words in Krishna's service, mind also, we have to be attentive. That means if we're finding faults, what in me is distressed by this? Prabhupada was around a band of hippies. We were like, when I think about it, we were products of the war. You know, our fathers came back from the war. We were baby boomers. Our parents were torn by terrible violence. They were injured psychically, and they produced this generation of children that were abhorrent to war, and they were about to be drafted. And Prabhupada came, and there was a lot of chaos going on. Prabhupada took us in such wounded conditions, and he engaged us in Krishna service from wherever we were. We were tamagunars, and he made us into Brahmins. How is it possible? Incredible patience, agyata sukriti. He gave us his qualification. He qualified us. It's 55 years ago for myself, and I'm still engaged in this process. And I was a simple flower child, born and raised in Hawaii, going to waterfalls every day, seeing rainbows. I didn't know what suffering was. But Prabhupada, he gave us this philosophy. And while I didn't believe some of the things, like this life is suffering, because I had a beautiful life, just wait 30, 50 years, and you believe everything Prabhupada teaches. You may not now, life is different, but as you go through the stages of life, and you know how important it is to take out the trash in your own mind, in your own psyche, instead of looking at the faults of others, look into yourself and see how you can do better. It's really important that we begin this process. Introspection, self-realization. That's what we're here for, to realize, who am I? Not this body, not this mind even. The mind will only go so far. We have to detach from that. Even this mode of goodness pride thing that we've got going. I'm so good. I'm so good. And then we have disdain for others. Well, like, I can't associate with them. Where's the mercy in that? Prabhupada came to Patala, and I heard that I used to pray, I want to go where Prabhupada's going next life. And then I heard that he's going to Patala Loka, and I went, oh. Checkmate, I got frightened. Seriously, that's scary, because this was as Patala as I could do, So how willing are we to sacrifice everything for Prabhupada? When Prabhupada heard his two, Gargamuni and Brahmananda went to Pakistan, and it was a war. Every day he inquired for their safety. Every day he worried about them. What are we willing to do? We have to be willing to do what we can. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavad Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Jai Hari Go. Thank you for your enthusiastic Hare Krishna.